This is Dassen Island. It is home to a small family of African penguins that live among thousands of other African penguins. It is a barren and remote island, scattered with boulders and small clumps of grass that grow on the sandy soil. Situated 34 miles north of Cape Town and 6 miles out to sea, the island is home to about 25,000 African penguins. In the early 20th century, the island echoed to the bray of more than 1 million penguins. However, theft of eggs left penguin numbers seriously depleted, and now the population is recovering. Most penguins are here to breed and raise new families of young penguin chicks. But unattached penguins searching for the right partner also roost here. The penguins share their home with other animals too. Kelp gulls also live on the island. They can be dangerous. They will steal eggs and very young chicks if they possibly can. Sailors introduced European rabbits here many years ago, in case they were ever shipwrecked and needed a ready supply of meat. The rabbits have bred comfortably and freely ever since. The different species ignore each other. They eat different foods. And except for the gulls that sometimes prey on the chicks, there is no competition. This is the story of a small family of African penguins, one of the many on Dassen Island. They live amongst the boulders here, close to the beaches with easy access to the sea. Other families live here too. They each have their own nest site where they bring up their youngsters. The family has dug burrows in the sandy soil, so the chicks have protection from the elements. Today is a calm day, with bright skies and no storms on the horizon. It is a day for relaxing and a little rebuilding of the family home. African penguins, or jackass penguins, produce a loud braying noise when they communicate with one another, very much like a donkey, which is why they were given such a derogatory name. The parent birds are noisy and very vocal. They call each other often and reinforce their pair bonding and affection for each other this way. The calls also warn off intruders. This is my home. You are trespassing. The penguin family returns here every year from March to May. It is now March, and this is the best time of year for breeding on the West Coast. It is not too hot and not too cold, and there are fewer Atlantic storms and raging seas. It is also before the great sardine migrations start moving south during the winter. So there is ample time for the babies to grow and become strong enough to hunt for themselves. Every day, the family troops down to the beach with their neighbors on the island for a bathe in the cool ocean. Penguins are designed for swimming and hunting in the ocean. They have waterproof feathers and are sleek and streamlined with webbed feet. On warmer days, African penguins dive into the water to keep cool. The families often bathe within a few meters of the shoreline. They shake their bodies around wildly and preen themselves with their beak and feet. 𝗥𝗲𝗹 Island has large kelp forests just off its beaches, and these keep the coves secluded and safe from the rough Atlantic Ocean waves just beyond the rocky reefs. The penguin is superbly adapted for life beneath the ocean waves, as well as on land. Their feathers are uniquely uniform. They don't have separate types of feathers like other birds because they don't need them. Their plumage is specialized for swimming and diving. It is very dense, doesn't trap air, and allows them neutral buoyancy, unlike human divers, who must equalize themselves by breathing in and out until they are balanced in the water. Temperatures here can reach over 80 degrees Fahrenheit on a hot day, and penguins are well insulated against the cold with their close-fitting feathers, so they have to try and keep cool. Other species of penguins living in colder climates have feathers covering every inch of their bodies. They spend a great deal of time grooming themselves. This is very important. It keeps their feathers oiled and helps with protection against chills in the cold seas where they hunt and swim. Some of the penguins look decidedly scruffy, with feathers sprouting seemingly at random. They can't help it. This is the molting process, and it is a necessity. Molting can be uncomfortable with old feathers falling out as new ones grow in, but the process is painless. The plumage is adapted for a watery lifestyle, but as with every coat, it must be updated occasionally. For African penguins, that can be once or twice a year. The penguin that is going through this process can't go out to sea and feed because it gets too cold without the proper insulation. So the birds start to fast when the molt begins, and they do not resume feeding until about a month later, when all the new feathers are in place. It is worth the wait, as the new coat of feathers is bright and gleaming with health. The parent penguins have had their swim and have cooled down now. The parent birds dry their feathers and start to return to the nest. The other birds, perhaps single birds without chicks or partners, are still grooming carefully and taking their time. Here on 𝗥𝗲𝗹, there is plenty of time with the wonderful weather and ideal conditions. But one by one, the penguins start the trip back, either to their youngsters waiting for them, or to the rocks to continue grooming. There will be plenty of time for another dip later in the day. There are always those who linger, making sure that every feather is in just the right place. Even the molting birds. But eventually, everyone has to leave the beach and head back inland to the rocks and the shade. The beach is very close to the rocky interior of the island, and the sea always available for a swim. The parents have had a cleansing swim, and now they are ready to make sure the youngsters are comfortable and fed. They also regularly check the nests for repairs that need to be done. They try to limit being too active during the heat of the day to the early morning and late afternoon, when the sun is less powerful. "40 days after laying the eggs, the young hatch, and are completely reliant on their parents for food and protection. They grow up very quickly, though, and within 80 days are able to fend for themselves while their parents are away hunting for fish. The young chicks are very demanding. They need to eat in order to grow into strong adult birds themselves. It's hard work for the parents, keeping up with their growing chicks' diets. The mother and the father share the feeding of regurgitated fish, usually pilchards and sardines. But unlike many other seabirds that feed their chicks this way, the fish is undigested. Stomach enzymes are very alkaline, and the parents are able to delay the process of digestion, which is important to the chicks if the delivery of their dinner is 5 days away. The youngsters don't always hatch at the same time, and the older chick is very often a lot bigger and greedier than its sibling. The parents try their best to be impartial and feed each chick equally. But there is often a great deal of squabbling as the youngsters try to get the lion's share of what the parent bird is carrying in its stomach. While mother penguin tries to feed the babies equally, the father stands quietly watching them and preening. It will soon be his turn. The father penguin keeps an eye out for potential dangers. Being a penguin mother and father is a very demanding job. African penguins have bare pink skin around their eyes, beaks, and flippers, helping keep the blood cool. But the penguins will also keep themselves cool by holding their flippers away from their body and fluffing out their feathers. Penguins that are not breeding often spend the whole day in the summer swimming in the sea or down at the beach in groups. They sometimes come up to the nesting sites to inspect the breeding pairs and the youngsters. The family is also wary about staying outside too long because of the heat. And they are curious about the neighbors because some are busily digging nest burrows. It's a dusty, dirty business, digging burrows. And tiring, too, especially with the sun getting stronger as noon approaches. The family shares its place with other penguins beneath the sheltering rocks, but often they are alone, as each family keeps to themselves. As long as each little family unit stays near its own burrow, there is no conflict, and everyone gets along. The job of deepening the burrows and making them perfect for the penguin family is an ongoing project, and the parents renovate all the time. The island's terrain is perfect for penguins. Unlike many of the older islands that penguins nest on, there is ample place for the birds to nest. And because it is out at sea, there are few terrestrial predators here. Although mother or father always keep a lookout for any hungry gulls, just in case. On Dassin, the soil is light and sandy, perfect for digging. The parents perform this task with great enjoyment, sending the sand flying in every direction and covering any penguin, especially lazy dads, unfortunate enough to be standing in its path. Penguins are vocal and affectionate when they need to be. The male African penguin displays both visually and at full volume when he wants to attract a mate, or declare his ongoing devotion for his current partner. He throws his head back and brays his love song loudly, leaving his intended partner in no doubt that he is interested. Sometimes, though, one of the neighbors gets a little too curious about family business. He may just be looking for a partner and entirely innocent of any wrongdoing. Father Penguin is not too pleased with any interference. He has a family to protect and care for. Mother Penguin keeps close to her babies in the burrow. The adult birds are very alert to any possible danger, like a hungry gull. Even though there are no large land predators roaming the island, it is better to be safe than sorry. The burrow nests and sheltered crevices and caves under the rocks are very important for the penguins that must keep out of the sun as much as possible. The birds have to jump and clamber to the top of the rocks in order to get to them. For an animal with modified flipper wings and no fingers or paws, it can be a clumsy and difficult task to get to the shady spots. But African penguins are very capable birds and manage the steep rock faces fairly easily. Even the young chicks manage to find a cool nook in which to sit. And the other birds jump and hop across the boulders to find their own crevice in which to take shelter. They don't always want to sit in the burrows. The chicks often form groups to keep each other company when the parents are away on hunting trips, sometimes in the burrows and sometimes amongst the rocks. The kelp gulls are also sitting on the rocks, waiting for something to scavenge, or just enjoying the sunshine of the early morning. The young chicks in the rock crevice behind them are a little too big for the gulls to attack, so for now, they're quite safe. The rest of the colony stands in the early morning sunshine, flapping their wings to keep cool. The underground burrows are deep and well hidden at ground level. The hard work needed to dig the underground nests was worth it. The chicks are comfortable and safe. It is only when a curious head peers out from below ground level that it is evident somebody is home. Some of these burrows even have annexes built onto them, so that there is a choice of rooms that the chicks and their hard-working parents can make use of. Groups of youngsters also use these burrows when their parents go off on fishing trips, sometimes for as long as 5 days. But most of the adults tend to stay above ground, keeping a lookout for anything that might be wrong. The chicks are comfortable and well fed. It is a lovely day for sitting in the warm sunshine. The youngsters are born at different times, so some of the younger ones feel safer sitting in the protective coolness of the burrow. Of course, when Mom is busy enlarging the family home, the dust and activity can get a little too much for the youngster. Standing outside in the fresh air is much more comfortable. The parent birds always keep a close eye on their chicks, and standing near the nest gives them a great opportunity to continue grooming and preening, which is so important in keeping their feathers in top condition. The young chick is not quite as adept as the adults are at preening yet. But by watching the grown birds, it will learn what to do. Keeping the burrow in good condition is a job for both parents. And together, they inspect the renovations that have been done till now. The other birds in the colony want to go for another swim, and together they troop down towards the beach. Watched curiously by our family and a few of their friends, who are not quite ready to go swimming yet. But then they too are lured by the thought and proximity of the cool waters nearby. And together, the penguin colony heads seaward. With its huge kelp beds that keep the waters around it calm and safe, and the law that currently safeguard the birds, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Island is a protected sanctuary for the African penguin. However, the island was not always protected. In the past, eggs were worth a great deal of money and were collected in their thousands by the locals to sell. These birds once nested in their millions on different islands in this area. Now, there is this colony and a few smaller ones further up the coast in Namibia. Today, the eggs are safe from theft, and penguin numbers have increased. The penguin family is very keen to head for the water for a swim. They are excellent swimmers and divers. Using their flippers and tails, the energetic birds play and swim in the small waves of the protected bay. The pleasure they seem to derive from this play is obvious, and yet it is important preparation for life out in the deep ocean. Out in the deep ocean, penguins show just how adept they are in the water. They are adapted to diving for long periods, and can dive for up to 18 minutes at a time, and to depths of over 1,600 feet. Penguins often leap through the waves on the top of the water. This is porpoising, and perfect for swimming and diving at speed through the huge ocean seas that lie beyond the kelp forests in this secluded bay. Especially when hunting their favorite prey, the speedy sardine and other fast-swimming fish. Being colonial nesters means they are very comfortable with each other's company. But even so, quarrels break out every now and then. Other seabirds that live on the island float on the gentle waves. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Island is a perfect place for them, with the strong Atlantic currents that bypass the island, bringing them plenty of food in the form of the fish they eat. When the penguins have had enough of swimming in the cool ocean, they emerge and carry on with the grooming process. It is even more important after a swim to put back the oils onto the feathers, especially for the birds in molt. The preening releases oil from a gland under the tail, and the penguins spread it on their feathers with their beaks. They gather on the rocks right next to the sea, for this is a group bonding session too. The penguin families spend many hours here on the beach in good weather. Some of the older chicks, now classified as juveniles, still have their downy chick coats. But the strong, mature feathers are growing beneath, and soon they will have the striking dark feathers of the adults and be able to swim out to sea and hunt as the other birds do. The parents don't want to stray too far from their chicks. Adults must leave the island to hunt for food or just head to the bay for a swim. So the chicks must keep themselves occupied and relatively safe from any harm. Penguin chicks form protective creches while their parents are away, and the youngsters will creep into their burrows or climb up the rock crevices in an attempt to keep out of the sun and away from any potential harm that might be lurking. Together, with their siblings and other chicks left on their own, the youngsters band together and share whatever shade they can find. They are safer in a group than if they were to sit alone on the rocks or on the sandy area below the boulders. On the beach, the family is enjoying the afternoon sunshine, and the proximity of the nest to the water is very convenient for the parent birds. They can keep an eye on their wayward chicks without too much trouble and still relax on the beach. This is a very desirable spot. The sandy soil is so easy to dig, and the urge to continue earlier repairs to the burrows becomes even more important than the usual favorite activity of grooming. Mother and father penguin are continually making sure the nest is big enough for the whole family. And with the loose, sandy soil, it is important that the nest is kept shored up and safe. Dassin Island is remote and desolate, with little vegetation. But to the many creatures that live here, it is home. And with the bountiful sea close by, food is easily accessible. Other seabirds that live here are also thinking of their next move, to settle in for the evening, or to go out for that last fishing trip before nightfall. As the day moves into late afternoon, penguins with chicks contemplate their next hunting expedition. The penguins start their fishing trips in the evenings, sometimes going away overnight, sometimes for a number of days, depending on how the fish stocks are running. Mother and father penguin know that their chicks are quite safe for now. Their chicks are growing bigger every day and are more capable of taking cover should there be any danger. So they continue grooming and preening and enjoying each other's company. It is easy to determine the difference between the two sexes, as the beak is the key. The male has a broader and larger beak than his female partner. Other members of the colony are coming to join the family at the nest site, and it is clear to see how each little family group has its own definite space. This is very important when living so closely to one's neighbors. Behind mother penguin is a sacred ibis, and together with the kelp gulls, these birds will not hesitate to help themselves to a fat, juicy chick that is alone. The rabbits are no threat to the penguins at all. The penguins are tired of being down at the beach, and together they start the move back toward the rocks. Most of them are keen to return to their youngsters, waiting patiently in their burrows. Viewing Dsson Island from a human perspective, it is a barren place. There is not very much here at all. The only things that survive throughout the winter months in the rain and the cold are the rocks and tough grasses. Dsson is prime real estate for penguins. Here, they have plenty of space, sandy soil for digging, and rocks for protection and shade. Surrounded by the generous sea that provides food, life is sweet for a penguin living on Dsson Island. But it's so much better if you have a partner with whom to share all this bounty. Single penguins search for mates amongst the neighbors, and their hunt is not always welcome. A lone stranger wandering around the family home is something to be wary of. The parents are very protective of their nest sites. They return to the same place every year. Father and mother penguin reaffirm their affection for each other with down-turned head and bill, a sure penguin sign for absolute devotion. The chicks are unconcerned with parental affection. They are too young to care about anything other than where and when their next meal is coming. For now, they are well fed and content. Even though life is relatively calm now, tempers are easily frayed when the weather gets too hot. The chicks are too demanding, and there are just too many wandering strangers around the nest site. Swinging their heads from side to side is a clear indication of nest ownership. Action will be taken, and the trespasser chased vigorously away if they ignore the warnings. It is up to the father to protect the nest when mother penguin is away hunting for fish for the family. At all costs, he must protect his family from any potential harm, even another penguin. Penguins are irritable birds, and the other neighbors are used to this kind of behavior. It's not that uncommon. The lone male bird is well aware that he is unwelcome, but the urge to find a mate is very strong. But with the stranger warned off for now, a little sharing of affection is always welcome. And allo grooming, or grooming each other, is the only way of showing that. Mutual grooming is a show of tenderness to one another, and it's practical too. Some parts of the body are difficult to reach, so a helpful beak is always welcome. The stranger leaves the little family in search of his elusive partner, or just someone with whom he can spend a quiet night in safety. Mother returns with a full crop to a family of very hungry babies. They cluster about her, begging to be the first to eat. Father stands behind the trio, waiting patiently. He too will provide food to the youngsters when his partner has emptied her crop into the demanding chicks. Both partners must take on the tiresome job of placating their hungry babies, and it is very uncomfortable for the adults when there are two chicks harassing them at the same time. For the parents, the long day starts at dawn, or even the night before if they have had to go on a fishing trip. And the chicks don't care who feeds them, as long as they get fed. It is very important that the chicks grow strong as quickly as possible, because they must be able to hunt for themselves in the future. This is probably why they are so demanding and harass their parents mercilessly. Aerial and land predators are less likely to attack them if they are large and healthy. The parents must go out to fish as often as they can in order to get enough food for both themselves and their brood. Mother and father penguin also need to keep up their strength, and the fish can be as erratic as the ocean. They are not always in the same places they were on the last fishing trip. Sometimes the birds must search for them, and that takes a lot of energy, especially when they have hungry chicks waiting for them back at the burrows. These trips can take days. The parent birds only make these long journeys when they are sure the chicks are strong enough to last as long as 5 days without a parent close by to take care of them. The weather is good now, but the Atlantic Ocean is notorious for its storms, and they can happen at any time, whatever the season. The seas are calm right now, and ideal for the little families living on 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Life for the penguins is good. Single penguins with no family they must be responsible for linger down by the shoreline. From here, they can monitor the weather and the waves. Will it be good for fishing later, perhaps? Will the fish be there? In the bay, protected by the kelp forests just offshore, the water is tranquil. Further out, the evening breeze is whipping up the waves. Close to shore, it is perfect for that last evening swim. The sometimes unpredictable Atlantic Ocean is important to these animals. It provides their food. It is vital to their very existence. For most of the African penguins, it will be a night spent on the island, with their chicks in a warm, comfortable burrow. As the sun sinks slowly below the horizon, the last light glistens on the rocks and the seabirds that call Dassen their home. The island residents settle for the night. The African penguin is unique to the southern parts of the African continent. Overfishing and global warming could put an end to the populations that live here. For now, the African penguin and our family is safe, living on this small island sanctuary and protected from most intruders, and allowing us a brief glimpse into the life of this remarkable and rather endearing